Hey everyone, welcome to today's video about Nio and the Chinese EV market. We now have the last week of, at least last full week of 2024 delivery and insurance registration numbers. And we can see that for the first time, probably the first time ever that Nio and Xpeng are beating Tesla combined. So Nio and Xpeng combined came in at 20,800 deliveries for insurance registrations, which is around 2,000 higher than Tesla. And this is a really strong finish to the year for these two companies. At this rate, both these companies are gonna do essentially 500,000 cars each, combined 1 million together next year if they continue at this pace, which would put them at around 50% of Tesla's number. And knowing that Tesla's market cap is at, let's have a look again. Yeah, they're sitting at 1.34 trillion US dollar. Nio and Xpeng are sitting combined at 20 billion. So we're talking you know, I mean, let's say 50 to 70 times, probably 65 times difference in market capitalization. But with the caveat that Tesla only deliver just around 2 times more cars. In the long term, I don't think that's a sustainable valuation with these companies. Either Tesla has to go down quite clearly, or Nio and Xpeng has to be highly valued. I know that Tesla has other kind of business segments for sure, but I would struggle to think that they would hold those margins that they have on their electric vehicle brand if the Chinese EV companies continue to execute at this level. I simply cannot find it to see a possibility or a future where Tesla can have these kind of margins and prices if Nio and LiAuto as well, Xpeng, BYD, all these companies continue to execute this amazingly well. And this is actually now getting really interesting. I made an expectation video for 2025 the other day, but if we just quickly have a look at some of the lines there, we can see that vehicle deliveries at 110,000, 100,000, 90,000 and 84,000. 84 being Q1 of next year, so Q1 of 2025. And honestly, if they continue at this rate, they could already beat this Q2 expectation number, but in Q1. And I wouldn't put it past Nio if they would deliver, in an absolute best case scenario, closer to 140,000 deliveries in Q4 of next year. And that would obviously completely change the picture. I mean, in that case, probably we would see Nio be very close to being profitable. Maybe not yet, but I would expect them to have at 140,000 deliveries, I would expect Nio to have maybe less than 200 million net loss per quarter, which would put them at a run rate of less than 1 billion net loss per year. And in that case, Nio would be for sure safe, in my opinion. And things again start to look very great for Nio, I have to be honest. But again, we have to wait and see. And the first indication of how well they are executing is probably, I would say, Q1 earnings, when we can see and have a more realistic expectation on terms of margins. Because what we don't want to see is a case where they increase their deliveries, but the average sales price is gonna tank even more. Right now, I'm expecting around, let's say, 35,000 ASP per sold car by end of next year. If the market conditions are becoming a bit more tough, the competition is increasing, we could see, a little bit fight about the price and maybe more competitiveness. And so that could obviously, so there's so many uncertainties, but at the current state, Nio is moving in the right direction. But we also know that they just, I think I read on Twitter today that they just launched like 90 or so new swap stations in these past few days. And that's if you think about it, that the total number of swap stations that they have is just around, I think, 3,000, maybe 2,990 or so. According to my data, is last time I updated a couple of days ago was 2,900. So if you add to that those new 90 ones, we were getting very close to 3,000. And 90 new swap stations in 1 week, that's 3% addition per week. That's a 12% increase on a monthly basis. So that's a very, very fast increase in Nios increase in swap stations. But I mean, at this rate, if I'm expecting them to deliver, let's say, I don't know, 500,000 cars next year, and we know that the fleet size right now is just below 700,000, we would expect them to have a fleet size essentially double the size that they have now this time next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if the average daily swaps would be closer to 180,000 maybe by this time next year. 160,000 maybe more realistic. Essentially a doubling of the daily swaps that we have right now. And the question is, how many new swap stations will they add by this time next year? I mean, if we expect them to have 4,000 because they're expanding so fast, let's do a 4,250 swap stations by this time next year. And let's go with 180,000 swaps per daily swaps, right? So 180,000 daily swaps. It would push us, above 40 or so swaps per station. So again, one step closer to break even. Now we know that the break even number was 60 based on what Nio said a couple of years ago. Could be possible that this number is a little bit less now due to the scale of Nio right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if the break even number, if they would give an updated number now, maybe it would be closer to 50 rather than 60 that we have heard previously. So no matter how you dice it, I think they are moving in the right direction. But all we need is a little bit of a conservative outlook for Nios, expenses, operating expenses, income and loss from operations, maybe slight slowdown in the R&D expansion and SG&A. I would like to see Nio be much more effective in SG&A and in their sales of number of cars and the marketing that they do per sold car. If they manage to do that kind of stuff, so we don't want to see this kind of line, their SG&A increasing by equivalent to the same increase of vehicle delivery increase. Like if the vehicle deliveries increase 10% per quarter, I wouldn't want to see SG&A increase 10%. I would want to see it increase by maximum, let's say 8 to 9%. So that we could start to see some efficiencies in Nio's entire business, right? And that's where you get this higher, gross margins with higher volumes. So I'm quite satisfied. It was a great finish to the end of the year for Nio, and hopefully we'll continue on this path. To finish the video off, I will look at the expectations and comparisons of the yearly increase for Nio. You can see we went from 40,000 to 90,000, then 120, 160, and now slightly below my expectations, maybe 225,000 for 2024, which is a great increase, again around 39%. Now, before I updated this number 375, now and seeing the strong finish to the year, I'm gonna increase this number to, let's go with 455. I think that's for sure in play, and that would be probably by far the best year if you're looking at also comparison to the scale. Sure, in 2021 they more than doubled, but look at the scale right now. We are at 200,000 cars. So if you're doubling that, that's pushing us very close to 500,000 cars, which would be, interestingly enough, the same number of cars roughly that Tesla did in 2020. So Nio is expected to be just essentially 5 years behind Tesla, and now I would say Nio is starting to ramp up much faster. In 2026, at this rate, we could see Nio do closer to 700,000 cars, maybe. I mean, that's possible for sure. And I don't expect Tesla to increase their numbers. I think they're stagnating a little bit right now. So yeah, that's gonna again very strong. I couldn't be more happy about the finish of the year for Nio, at least in terms of the output of cars. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, comment in the video, and have a great end to 2024 and start to 2025.